$65 billion. If you spent $1 every single second, it would take you over 2,000 years to spend that much money. It is a number so large it stops feeling like money and starts to feel like geography. On December 10th, 2008, that geography vanished. It did not burn down. It was not lost in a market crash. It simply never existed. In plain sight, over the course of 3 decades, one man pulled off the greatest financial theft in human history. Not with a gun, not with a computer hack, but with a smile, a seat at the right country clubs, and a reputation so polished that questioning him felt almost inappropriate. He did not steal from banks. Banks gave him their money. He did not trick reckless gamblers. He deceived Nobel Prize winners, charities, and some of the most sophisticated regulators on the planet. Today, this is not just a story about greed. It is an autopsy of trust. We are going inside the 17th floor of the Lipstick Building to see exactly how Bernie Madoff turned the global financial system into his personal ATM. And why, despite dozens of red flags, the world chose to believe the lie until it was far too late. To understand the crime, you have to understand the man. Bernie Madoff was not an outsider. He was the ultimate insider, a pioneer of electronic trading, a builder of the NASDAQ, a former chairman. When people thought of safety in the markets, they thought of Bernie. People ask me how I do it, he liked to say. They want the secret sauce. The truth? It is boring. We buy the best companies. We hedge our bets. We do not chase the moon. We chase the horizon. Stability. That is what I sell. If you want 40% returns, go to Vegas. If you want 10% every year, rain or shine, you come to me. That was the hook. He was not offering get rich quick. He was offering never get poor. He became known as the Jewish T-bill. Investing with Bernie was not just a financial decision. It was a status symbol. If you were in Madoff's fund, you had arrived. Madoff claimed to use a strategy called split-strike conversion. For non-finance people, it is a way of buying stocks and using options to limit losses. On paper, it looked brilliant, conservative, safe. In reality, it was a fairy tale. A Ponzi scheme is simple. You use money from new investors to pay returns to old ones. But Bernie did it at a scale never seen before. He did not just fake numbers, he built an entire fake reality. There was a fabricated back office, fake trade confirmations, millions of pages of fictional paperwork generated by a small, untrained staff whose only job was to make the illusion look real. The 19th floor of the building was the front, a legitimate, highly profitable market-making business. But the 17th floor, that was the engine room of the lie. Restricted access, special key cards. Even Madoff's own sons, who worked at the firm, were not allowed down there. Frank DePascali, Madoff's lieutenant, later admitted what was really happening. It was theater, he said. Every day we looked at what the market did, then worked backward. We found stocks that went up and pretended we bought them at the bottom. Stocks that went down, we pretended we sold them at the top. We were novelists, writing a $65 billion work of fiction every single day. So why did no one catch him? Because the statements looked perfect. They were boring. They showed small, steady gains, and in finance, nothing is more seductive than consistency. Madoff relied on affinity fraud. He targeted his own community, country clubs in Palm Beach, Jewish charities, tight social circles where questioning Bernie did not feel analytical, it felt disloyal. Imagine a billionaire investor, let us call him the whale, confronting Bernie in a private lounge. Bernie, my analysts say, your numbers are impossible. The math does not work. How are you beating the S&P every single month? Bernie's response was always the same. Look, if you are uncomfortable, take your money and go. I do not need your capital. I have a waiting list. And if you want to audit my secret sauce, find another chef. That was the real genius. By threatening to kick people out, he made them desperate to stay in. The SEC investigated Madoff 5 times. Each time they walked into his office, sat across from the legendary Bernie Madoff, and let him charm them. They reviewed the paperwork he provided, and never checked with the actual clearinghouses to confirm whether the trades had ever happened. It was not a failure of intelligence. It was a failure of authority. They did not see a criminal. They saw a statesman. They were blinded by the aura of respectability. A Ponzi scheme only dies in one of two ways: the authorities show up or the money runs out. In 2008, the world changed. The subprime mortgage crisis detonated. Markets did not dip. They cratered. Investors everywhere needed cash, liquidity, safety. In early December, Madoff received redemption requests totaling $7 billion. He checked the account. There were only a few hundred million left. The music had stopped. His sons called their lawyers. The lawyers called the FBI. The next morning, agents were at the door. The numbers are staggering. $65 billion on paper. About $17 billion in actual cash was lost. But the human cost cannot be quantified. Charities collapsed overnight. Holocaust survivors lost their life savings. Families who thought they were secure for generations were suddenly wiped out. Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison. He died behind bars in 2021. His name became synonymous with betrayal, but the damage did not end there. His son Mark committed suicide 2 years to the day after the arrest. His other son, Andrew, later died of cancer, blaming the stress of the scandal. Bernie Madoff did not break the system. He used it. He used our instinct to trust authority, our desire for safe returns, our fear of looking foolish by asking hard questions. As you look at your retirement account, your savings, or your investments, ask yourself, why do you trust them? Is it because you have verified the math? Or because the people involved seem respectable? The greatest trick Bernie Madoff ever pulled was not stealing $65 billion. It was convincing the world that stability was guaranteed. In the real world, there is no line that only goes up. If you want to understand how power, trust, and money quietly fail, and how the same patterns repeat again and again, this channel documents those moments. Because the most dangerous systems are not the ones that look broken. They are the ones that look safe.